Hi, Matt here from Crooks Cabinet Makers. So, recently I've been making some speaker cases and I wanted a nice 90-degree join, and the only way I could think of doing it was with the Makita cutter. It's quite easy to set up once you know how, so let's crack on. So having a look at the setup, first thing I've got in here is the mighty Makita 1/2-inch router. And then I've set that up in my normal router bench. And the Makita cutter is here. I'll give you a closer look of that later. For my extraction unit, I'm using this smooth bore hose, which really improves the dust collection. I've got a simple adapter here that fits. You can pick these up for £1 or £2, I believe. You need to shop around for that. And at this end, the same hose, I would just take out the original Henry Hoover, the original one out, and then just use this one with another adapter, the same adapter. It works a treat. So I'm just going to run through and put one together for you guys, and then I'm going to show you the setup. So the first pass, we need to pass through on the flat, and the second pass, we need to put up in the vertical position. Now I actually think I'm cutting just slightly too much off with these. That's the actual cut shape. I messed up. I'll pass through twice on this one. So now those two pieces just simply lock in. And that's really tight and really stable. So the gluing up is pretty straightforward. And then just simply fold it together like that, and there you go. So you don't actually need to clamp this at all, it'll set by its own accord, but I did that yesterday and I wasn't overly impressed with the result, and I'll show you that in a minute. I think that's going to look a treat. So for this demonstration, I've just clamped across there to bring it into 90 degrees. So these are the two test pieces I made yesterday, and I'm really happy the way they went together. One's a 9mm ply thickness, and the other's 12mm. And that doesn't make any difference, but they're really strong. The final result is very strong, and in a moment we're trying to destroy it. But one thing I noticed, and it's I suppose important for the 12mm, because I'm going to use another 12mm, is I've got a slight gap there. Now I didn't use any cramps on these yesterday, I just set them up and put them together, and they went up at 90 degrees, they're really good. But what I think is I didn't set the depth of the fence correctly. So actually I'm pretty pleased with the joint quality on it, it's very strong. But let's just see just how strong it is. Now that's starting to go already, as you can see. There's quite a bit of pressure, and right, that's gone. I need to bring this fence just slightly forward. But before I do that, I'll tell you how I set up this for height. So first thing you've got to do is measure the thickness of your timber going through. Thickness of the timber there is 12mm. Divide that by 2 is 6mm. So the underside of that there is reaching onto the 6mm point, if you can see that. So that's your halfway point. So now my next problem is the depth. It's just too fine to work, so I need to do it a little bit more generous. And all I want to do is just adjust this by a real small tiny fraction, and that's it. So I'll be brutally honest and say that took a few attempts, but I'll show you the end result Actually, even now pulling them apart is pretty tricky, but the end result is really good. I've got it to cut pretty much where I want it to go. Give it a little tap up, and we've got a really tight, crisp joint there. And that's nothing but timber there. There's a little gap at the top here, but once that gets some glue in, we'll be good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue those, no clamps, and we'll just leave them, see what happens. Still got a gap there, let's see what happens. Now that's done really well. That's pulled up really tight. That looks really nice. That looks perfect to me. So now I've got it sussed and it's in the right position. Let's have some fun with it. Right, let's see how this looks when it's all together. And I bet you the strength on this is just incredible. Let's just glue it up nicely. And let's put that together. Now I think that's going to pull up really nicely, but I am going to clamp this one. And there we go. We got it. Beautiful. Okay, so this is the router cutter I had lying around the workshop. So one of the things I thought was great about this cutter is it's very suitable for thinner pieces of timber, so up to 15mm, up to 12mm, and it works a treat, no problem. One of the things I didn't like about this and the limitations, firstly it's only operating on a 1/4" shank, which is a little bit deceptive because I don't think a router using a 1/4" collet is actually going to be powerful enough to get this through. If I'm going to set up and do this again, I'll go and buy a larger size router bit, because when you're cutting like this, one thing you can really benefit from is the momentum of the cutter, you know. So a 1/2" shank and a slightly larger cutter, that would be the absolute business. But this works really well for 12 and 9mm ply, just fine. So this is the first one I did this morning using the setting from last night, and I cramped that up, but I believe it's made marginally different, marginally improved, but you can still see a gap. And in my opinion, the benefit of using the lock miter joint, the lock miter cutter, is that you don't need to use clamps. It should just hold itself in position and you take it from there. Okay, the second one, this is one of the ones I set up in between there, and this had no cramps on it, but it's okay, it's passable, it's good enough. If I were to sand that up a little bit nicer, I'm pretty sure that'd be okay, but I really want to avoid any form of filler, and I've got some gaps there that I just think are a little bit too much. So this is the third one, the setup where I was most satisfied with it, and I've given that a rough hand sand over, and it's come up really well. The joint there is very tight, there's precious little gap, and that held itself together, which is exactly what I'm looking for. If we look on the inside, the glue's still tacky, but it's actually holding itself together pretty well. So this is the box section I glued up. You can see those joints are incredibly tight, which is fantastic. I haven't taken the RS edge off yet, and I'll just show you how well those have come up. So I suppose, for want of a better word, this has had mechanical sanding on it. So we've got a nice square edge on that. I'll just zoom in and see if you can see just how tidy that is. That's crisp and very, very clean. I'll look through them all, but there are some spots where it's not so great, but overall the effect is incredible. That needs to take the RS off on that. It's a little bit dark, but otherwise that's perfect. And that one, take the RS off, and that joint is, again, sweet as you like. Alright, thanks for watching. Stay safe in the workshop. Have a nice day.